All right. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I guess depends on when you're watching the replay. But thank you all for joining us. We are jumping into chapter 1 of Lord. I'm over here looking at the thing. So I'm about to say no more Mr. Nice Guy. Parenting for a Peaceful Home with the author, Mr. Drew Tupper, joining us. So thank you for leading these conversations and writing the book and walking us through it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for doing the work. Thank you for having your group. And I'm excited to dive in today.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. And Matt, as always, thank you for joining us, buddy.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, so I know I was talking with Robert earlier, so he might pop on a little bit later. I know there were a couple other guys that said they couldn't make it today, but they'll be watching the replay and popping on down the line. So we will jump into it. But actually, for the folks listening, right before this, we were talking about just some of the different laws and some of the different things in different places raising kids. And so it's funny, Drew, with this whole conversation. I know, and actually my mom and stepdad were kind of like this when it comes to alcohol and these different things, because the kids, they see it, they'll ask. Oh, we see, my daughter was joking the other day, because my wife come home, she works nights, she'll drink a glass of wine. So for her, after work is 7-8 o'clock in the morning. so they're home from school and they're like, Mom, you're drinking wine, first thing in the morning. She's like, well, this is after work for me.
Right.
So a little bit different. So they've already seen, that alcohol consumption and things like that can look a little bit different for different folks based on what's going on. But, especially as they've gotten older, like the 13-year-old, she's taken a sip. I've allowed her to try some different things, here and there, because as we were discussing, my thought process has always been, I don't want to make it seem like some taboo thing that's locked away for you to, look at through the locked cabinet, and then, either try and sneak it, or maybe one day when you've gotten old enough, you can have this elusive thing. I've always wanted to remove kind of that stigma from it and let the kids know this is just, something we do every now and then, in moderation, and all those different pieces. But like you said, try and remove kind of some of that stigma from on top of it.
Yeah, I like that approach. And here's something for parents to consider who might be questioning your approach. They might be saying, like, Curtis, I can't believe you're doing that. That is irresponsible. Curtis, you're the leader of a group. This is highly unorthodox. Let's say, so I want to speak to those people for a second, right? We all have judgments. I mean, we all have judgments of people and how they're doing things. So no big deal. But here's the deal, right? You could introduce things to your kids, or somebody else could. Right? You could talk about something openly. You could show them something. You could let them have a sip of your wine, or their friend could at a party. You could talk to your kids about sex, and or somebody else could.
That's
like,
right.
That's what makes this difficult, right? It's, some of these things do seem awkward and they do seem kind of taboo.
Right.
But like, we got a choice, right? We can leave our kids in the dark, but that means they're going to get the information from somebody else.
Exactly.
So what's your choice?
I love it. Yeah, no, I love it. That's always been my stance. And it's great because they go and they say, oh, Daddy, I see you drinking your bourbon, let me try some of that. Well, here you go. And then they take the sip, now my throat.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to work your way up there.
Yeah, I did the same thing with my son. He's 12 years old, and I'm not sure if it was beer or wine or what it was, but he said, this is gross. I don't even know how you drink this. This is disgusting.
Oh man, I love it. Roberto, what's up, buddy?
Hey man, how's it going?
Hey, doing good, man. Glad to have you on here with us.
Good to see you, Rob.
Hey, how's it going? Guys doing good?
Oh yeah. No, like I said, we were just jumping in. It kind of came up randomly talking about different laws in different places. So we started talking about introducing kids to things as you just heard. Matt, I know you got the little ones, 2 under 3. have you thought about, how you're gonna broach that subject or those subjects?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Well,
we have a similar mindset as you do, Curtis. And Drew, as we talked about, yeah, I think we have a similar mindset there that take the stigma out of it, just let them, I'm not going to let my kid try it at 3 years old, but when that time comes,
Right.
I think that's the same mindset that we'll have, similar to what you and Drew are talking about. So
I thought they said you're supposed to rub the bourbon on their gums at 3 when they're teething, and that helps them to calm down and go
Yeah.
to sleep.
well, it's funny because I started to read chapter 2 and I had to stop because some of chapter 1 I had some thoughts about, about expectations, and we'll go into that a little later. But then when I was like, this whole leading by example thing, and then when I got to chapter 2, it was lead by example. I was like, this is like what I was thinking about. I was like, so I had some comments about that. But one of the things like with that is, for me, it's that whole lead by example, right? Do what's right and
Yeah.
show your kids what's right. And so if drinking alcohol under the age of 21 is not right, why let them try it? Like for like my oldest son, because in my opinion is that's like saying, okay, you can try it, take some, you
Right.
have a hit or miss. They can like it, and now they're gonna go out and say, oh, I had some beer, I like it, and try to get some more, or they might not like it, and you might discourage them.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a 50-50 chance of what's going to happen. But then you're also showing them, hey, this is the law, but we're gonna, we're not gonna listen to that, and I'm gonna do this anyway. Like for me, like with my oldest son, we went to Puerto Rico, and I told him, I'm like, you're gonna be 18. I'll let you drink because in Puerto Rico it's legal.
Right.
But you have to be with me. You're gonna go out and drink. I'll let you get, have some drinks and see what it's all about and what the big
Exactly.
crave is about. But you're gonna do it with me, and we're gonna do it in a legal place and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people that have a different stance. 16, 17 years old, do it in my household with me. I can supervise you and watch you, that kind of stuff. And that's their parenting. Matter of fact, one of my son's neighbors, also a doctor, their parents let them drink if they're inside their household.
If they're in the house, yeah.
And they doing that since they were 16. And now when the parents go away and the brother and sister comes over, they have a party and they have wine coolers and beer and all this stuff, having a full out party with all the people now that might not have the same parents, but now they're susceptible to that. So in my opinion, those parents are not doing justice or doing the right thing, because now you're leaving a 16 and 17-year-old kid to be responsible, not to do it, not to give it to their friends. But I'm letting you as a parent be okay with drinking in my house.
It's an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
It's an interesting discussion because I could ask you guys like, when did you have your first drink? When did you start drinking when you were young? And did your parents know about it?
Mm-hmm.
So me,
Yeah.
I had my first beer. I think I was 14.
All right.
Did my parents know about it?
Mm-hmm.
I think they had an idea, but didn't have proof.
No. So next person. Next person.
So
mine was college. I was not 21 yet, but I waited. I didn't do any of the high school stuff. And I mean, I was living in the dorm, so no, my parents didn't.
But you didn't call them up and
I didn't call them, say, hey guys, yeah.
Right. What about you, Curtis?
Yeah. So same thing. Well, no. So like I said, my mom and my stepdad they had let me try some stuff beforehand. They were in the home, but I didn't, kind of get my own drinks and stuff until college. So about 19. And so,
Okay.
I think my mom did know, because when I would, as I would come home from college, she had no problem with, with me, getting a drink or whatever at the house. Like Rob was kind of talking about, with her, I didn't obviously get anything out of the house
Right.
until I turned 21.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's an interesting conversation because it seems like kids are going to go ahead whenever they feel they want to or where they're ready. And it's really not going to be in consultation with the parents too much.
Yeah.
I think I was like 15 or 16. So on the younger side, maybe. But this is an interesting conversation unto itself.
Mhm.
And we could talk all hour and a half about this, but I think we should probably get back to the book.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because with this chapter 1 of getting really honest, I mean, that's when we look into it, right at the beginning, get really honest. I was a great parent until I had children. And I love how you talk about, you go into it talking about, we kind of make these assumptions. And so even with this was something my wife and I, we thought we had it all figured out. When we first started dating, 18 years old, I met her day one at UNC Chapel Hill. And as soon as we realized we were going to get serious, we started talking about what the future was going to look like. We had the names of the kids picked out. We actually were like, we were so arrogant with how good of parents and things we thought we were going to be. We were like, we're going to have a boy, Curtis the third. We'll have a girl, and then another boy, and then another girl. We were like, we had to order the names and everything. And then here we are with 3 girls. So that third girl, we were struggling.
They saw us parenting, and they're like, "Oh, we can do that if they can do it."
Man.
Yeah, isn't that funny? That's exactly what happens, right? Oh, before you're a parent, you can look at other parents and then look at them and say, you know what, we could do better than that.
Yeah,
you know
right.
what? And it's so humbling.
But yeah, so I love this part of the getting really honest, because as I think back, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally relate to that. And like I said, even with that original conversation starting this off, I was like, yeah, there was some things I really thought, some preconceived notions, and then having the kids, one of my wife's attending said we have all these thoughts, and it was the oh man, what did she say? Your dreams get dashed upon the rocks of reality. You're driving in this boat, and this dream boat, and then all of a sudden you hit the rocks of reality. And that's what it was when kids came along for us.
Can I start there? And can I ask you guys, can we go around the circle? And I want to ask you, what preconceived notion did you have of parenting that when the reality happened, it ended up being different than that, and you got a wake up call?
Matt,
I could start.
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
I'll start. So similar to Curtis, I thought I was just going to automatically be good at it because I was, I had some intelligence and I had been good at some other things. I just thought parenting was just another thing, like, any skill like tennis or basketball. And I just thought, I'm good at those things. I'll be good at this. And I was not. I was not just some natural. And not only was I not a natural, I didn't even really pick it up that quickly. So that was humbling. There was other skills involved in this than I thought there was. So that was my preconception that I would be good at it. And it was the emotional side that I wasn't good at. I'll be clear about that. Like, it became clear to me that part of this role is like kind of like an emotional leadership. It's to be surely more emotionally mature than the kid, and to be in control of oneself. And I was not good at that. So that was my preconception. What about you, Matt?
I think for me, I didn't realize how hard it was going to be. You see all these other families and everybody on, they're posting on Facebook and Instagram, they're posting all the good stuff. You don't see the newborn waking up at, every 2 hours that needs to get fed. You don't see that. I mean, I knew that it wasn't as picture perfect as everybody sees posts, and stuff like that. But I didn't know it would be as hard as it was. And I think for me, I've always thought myself as a patient person, and I think I am, but I find my kids really pushing that, and me losing patience easier than I expect myself to lose patience, and telling myself maybe I'm not as patient of a person as I thought I was.
Yeah.
Because they're pushing my buttons sometimes, and I think the patience part of that is part of the reason that my buttons get pushed sometimes. So I think that's probably my answer to that question.
So for you, it was twofold or two-pronged. One side was, this is physically demanding. This is tiring.
Yeah.
I'm up in the middle of the night. I'm tired. This is hard. I'm exhausted. This is like a marathon. And then the other side was that the preconceived notion would have been there that you're a fairly patient guy, and now you're having this lived experience where you're questioning that. You're like, well, I'm not actually sure that's all that true.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Matt,
thank you.
sorry, Matt, something that drives me crazy. It blows my mind how I ask the kids, hey, where did you put the remote? Or where's your book for school? Or where's your shoes? They can't find any of those things, but they have no problem finding that last nerve that I have for the day.
Right. Right.
So go ahead, Drew.
Well, how about you share now, Curtis? What's a preconception that you had? Other than what kind of children you'd have and what they'd be named.
Right. No, something that kind of hit me in the face, especially with when Sarai first came along, was like Matt said, I found myself getting frustrated and losing my patience so quick. I also had this stark realization that I was very selfish, which was surprising to me, because I was like, man, I feel like I've been giving so much, up until this point, helping my wife with medical school, working, doing all this. So my preconceived notion that surprised me was, like Matt, I thought I was in a good emotional place to handle it, but I found that I felt that I was competing with a newborn for time, for energy, for my wife's affection. So I found my emotional, my lack of emotional intelligence, and I found my patience getting thin very quickly. So that really surprised me in those early days with the first.
Yeah, there's some similarities here. You can tell amongst us, definitely some similarities. And one thing that you just brought up, which reminded me of the early years, was I didn't appreciate the impact that having a kid would have on my marriage,
on the relationship.
And I was jealous as well. I was going crazy. I was like beside myself with like, what about me? Don't you care about me?
Yeah.
And I found it very difficult. And so maybe I was selfish, or maybe I was self-centered, or maybe I just wasn't prepared for like what I would have to give up in order to like bring a family into this world. It was shocking to me. So thank you for reminding me of that. That happened to me too. It was a big adjustment.
No, exactly. I mean, to the point where, and I tell people all the time, I'm a big fan of counseling, because we I think 6 months in, we went and saw, a marriage counselor, because that was something we realized is that, the dynamics had changed and we need to learn how to adjust.
Yeah, great point.
So,
yeah, thank you for bringing that in.
I'm going through that right now. That's all over again. Let's start all over again. Like, just no time for husband and wife, because it's working kid.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's definitely. I mean, I don't see it being selfish. I mean, I'm a Christian, and all that, Catholic, and it says in the Bible, don't leave your, pretty much, in summary, don't leave your husband out to dry either. But when their life is consumed by wife, work and kids only, not is it not fair, but it's not right also, biblically. But besides that, I think the hardest thing for me were what being a parent was. The biggest thing for me, I guess, because I ain't coming in with too many notions. I didn't come from a strong background of parenting. I was out in the streets at 12, doing whatever I want, raising myself. My sister's watching over me, my brother watching over me. My father was absent. I grew up in New York City, so it was kind of like out doing whatever at whatever age. So what being a parent was, I had no thought, but the little things I did know, or what I wanted it to be was, one, that I didn't want to do it by myself. And with my wife in medical school and then residency, during both kids, that's what it felt like. It felt like I was doing it by myself. And that was one thing I did not want. I thought I was going to have a partner to do it with, and that partner was going to be on the same page as me, parenting. Those are the two things that I saw myself going in with the family, which was completely wrong.
Yeah, man. Thank you for that share. I could relate a little bit to that, and I could see how that would be difficult, right? You didn't have great models of parenting growing up, so you thought, I want to do this with someone, and we want to have a good team here. But then a reality is that, and especially with little kids, having little kids is like one of the most difficult things, period. And it's a really difficult thing on a relationship as well, because they're so high maintenance. There's such a demand on your time and your energy. It's like, if people can get through having little kids, I think they're good.
Right.
I think they can do it. If you can get through having little kids, the coast is clear after that if you've made it through. But
what's the cutoff age for that? How much longer do I have to go?
to be honest, so we have kids that are 3.5 years apart. So I think for us,
Yep, come on, go to bed.
we started seeing things like the light at the end of the tunnel. We started seeing that like when the kids were like
Get me go.
7, 8, and then 4. Right?
Okay.
Like that's when, because they're just so like high maintenance. Like, can you help wipe my bum? Can you give me the food? I need this. Now I'm sick. I'm up at night. I'm tired. Now I had a bad dream. And it's just like,
One thing after another.
It's for, I just want to be honest with you, Matt.
No, that's good.
Like and then things have gotten better since then, like progressively better in the relationship. It's been like a reacquainting with each other and the love we have for each other, and rekindling the sexy part of our relationship too. And I'm really glad that we made it. We stuck it out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Curious what your thought was on when it got better.
It gets better and better, but like things like clearly got better. Like there was like a year where it was like, oh, when the youngest one became like 4 or 5, then it was like somebody opened the door and the light came in, and I could really, really sense that things were shifting.
Right.
And it's tough because you don't want to wish away the early years. You don't want to do that.
Right.
Oh, damn, like you're so high maintenance. You're 2 years old, because those are some of the most special years. Like hanging out with a baby and bonding with a baby is amazing.
Yeah.
What is tough.
Yeah. No, I would totally agree with that, Drew. I think Matt, as he was talking about, when they get into kind of that pre-K, that kindergarten stage, they start getting into school, they're potty trained, or at least for the most part, more or less potty trained, and all that. I think it definitely does change. The challenge too is you hear so many people talking about the terrible 2s or the terrifying 3s or whatever they call the different things. I think that's a good and a bad, a blessing and a curse, because the challenge is you almost kind of set yourself up expecting things to be bad, and when they don't
Yeah.
have to be. Because for us, with one of the kids, that, like I said, I got too many, I don't remember which one, but with one of them, twos was great. Two was actually fine. Then they hit three, and I'm like, what in the world happened to my amazing 2-year-old? So I think that's kind of the challenge too, is, that's why conversations like this are so valuable, because you can learn some of those different experiences, and it's not kind of just the flip it kind of random terrible twos, or the little one piece of advice that we hear, happy wife, happy life, with no context.
Yeah, exactly. Well said. All right. Well, let's dive into the book and do a little bit of book study. And thank you for sharing and being open. I think it's interesting how a lot of what we said was felt by the other men on the call. Like,
Yeah.
so we know that we're onto something. These challenges are not unique to ourselves. They're kind of universal.
No, exactly.
So the first chapter is called Getting Honest. Let me ask you, what was your takeaway from the first chapter?
Matt, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm just kind of looking through my notes.
All right.
I think for the most part, I'm pretty honest with myself. I'm not saying I'm perfect. But I related to a lot of your frustrations, Drew, that you had written in the book. And I think the biggest question maybe I was left with, kind of reading through that I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm curious to see
Yep.
what you guys' thoughts are, and if the book helps with this more. But what is your plan? Is in kind of number 6 on the workbook that you put together? What is your plan for when you forget or lose sight of this reason, and how do you keep that top
Yep.
of mind all the time? You're in the heat of the moment. Your kids are screaming, and you're ready to blow up. And how do you? I find myself stopping and catching myself from blowing up often. But
Yep.
I also find myself very frustrated in my own head. And I wonder if I can curb that frustration internally a little bit.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
how do I do that? That's,
Mhm.
I guess, my takeaways from chapter 1.
Yeah. And ultimately that's the best question
Yep.
of the in the chapter in the workbook is number 6 there. That's the best question. So if we're going to focus on one, that's the one to focus on, because really, I mean, how are we going to keep this top of mind? How are we going to keep the development of our kids, our relationship with them, in the way we lead by example, top of mind? Because out of sight, out of mind. Right? Oh, I got busy again. Oh, I forgot for 3 weeks that I need, that, like, this is important. Oh, I forgot for 3 months. Oh, I forgot for 3 years. So really, that's a great question. I want to say something first before I address that, about you being honest. So it's good that you're an honest guy. It's really super useful in terms of learning and growing. The reason why I put this chapter number 1, Getting Honest, because I wasn't that honest with myself. I want to be honest about that, because I think I was lying to myself. There would be times where I'd say, oh, things are fine. You know what? He deserved that. That's how he needs to be parented. So there was quite a while where I was justifying my actions.
Right.
And I was just, yeah, I'm the parent. I get to do what I want to do. And so this chapter may not resonate with you if you're already kind of an honest guy, but because I was lying to myself. And so this is why I put this number 1, because it was bullshit. And for me, it was a big deal to answer some of these questions. Like, what are you doing that's hurtful to your kids? And so for me to answer that was tough, because I had to start telling the truth. Instead of saying, you know what, it's not that hurtful, it's fine, kids are resilient, or you know what, it's good for him. I had to stop playing games,
Right.
and just be honest. So that's why I put that there. And each dad will be at his own stage of being honest with himself. And so it's great that you're already honest. As for number 6, about how to keep this top of mind, how to keep your commitment to your kids, to your family, to their well-being top of mind, and what you need to do in order to make sure that happens. That's a great question. Let's kind of brainstorm it here, and let's crowdsource the answer a little bit. Can you, Matt, either imagine something that would work or something that you've done in the past, and maybe it's not exactly with parenting, but it's some commitment that you've made where you've stayed pretty well on task and you kept it top of mind? And what were you doing when you did that? How did that work?
I've got, and I think Curtis probably knows this from some of our other calls. I've made a list of a bunch of goals for me for this year, and I think done a fairly good job of sticking to those goals.
Yeah.
I work. I've got an iPhone. I've got the reminders app that is built into the iPhone. I've got those. I've got 15 to 20 reminders in there throughout the day of my goals and things I need to do, and I think that's helped with that, because I'm a guy. If I get a reminder on my phone, I gotta clear it. Something comes up, I gotta clear it. So I don't want any reminders just sitting around on my phone. So maybe to do something on those lines. The problem is when your kids blow up, my kids, at 2:00, my kid's gonna blow up at 2:00. I'll put a reminder in for that. I don't know that, but maybe it's something more of, every 2 hours, I put a reminder in just to say, hey, just remember this. I don't know. But then I feel like if I do it too frequently and too often, it's just like 2:00, all right, clear, 4:00, clear,
Right,
6:00,
clear.
clear. You get in the habit of just seeing it every 2 hours, and then you just clear it off.
Hey, Matt.
So I don't know. Go ahead, Curtis.
Let me ask you this: when we were doing the PQ stuff, and so like you said, it was coming up 3 times a day in that reminder to check in with ourselves and do the emotional intelligence kind of seeing where we're at. Did you feel like that helped with those times when the kids would, like you said, you couldn't time it, but when the kids would do something, did you feel like you were in a better space because of those 3 a day reminders?
Not really. I think maybe a little bit, but I think the majority of them came up and it was like, oh, I've got to do my PQ reps for the day. And I did them, and I'm more often than not probably did them to do them versus doing them to mentally clear my mind and mentally be there to do them.
Right.
If I'm being totally honest, I not every time, but probably the majority of the times, that's I think what did it. And I don't know, maybe it helped a little bit, but I don't know that it helped significantly.
Okay.
So you've had some success in supporting yourself in the past, sticking to things with having reminders. So you're thinking, for you, really like keeping accountability high, seeing things helps you, visually seeing things, support in some way, like you're part of a group, first of all, here, and then so that probably helps.
Right.
So kind of setting yourself up for success with lots of reminders, and even visual reminders seems to be helpful for you.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But there, like you're saying, there's a danger in that you could kind of feel like you're just going through the motions on something.
Yeah.
Has there been a time in your life where, and other men can answer this too, where you've set your mind on something, on achieving something, and it took a significant amount of time, but you did it? And how did you do it? What was the magic?
For me, I've run a marathon before, and the training for that, you know, 16, 20 weeks of training to build yourself up for that.
Yeah.
It was making a calendar and checking it off. Yep, here today I've got
Right.
5-mile run. Today I got 10-mile run. Check it off each day. You know, marking that box. That was how I did it. That's what motivated me, I guess, to keep going.
Yeah. So you scheduled things, and you can't really mail in a run. I mean, you could kind of, you could kind of like, you know, just jog it out, but either way, you're still out there doing it.
That's right.
Right.
Still doing it.
So that's something to consider. And this is the way I do things too. I'm very similar to you. When I was at this stage, I actually put things in a calendar. I had a schedule, and I put things on my wall.
Right.
I actually, like, literally in different rooms of my home would put reminders to myself, inspiring reminders. I'd write them down and I'd stick them because that's how important this was to me. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, Drew, these are your kids. This is their future.
Right.
You're a big part of how they're going to develop, man. And I was
Yeah.
like, I kind of got over being embarrassed. And I started putting things on the wall and surrounding myself with positivity and reminders and joining groups and getting coaching and getting reminders. So I just kind of like really filled my life with lots of things to help me remember.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
told people what I was doing too. This is one other thing I want to say. I
Yeah.
told people what I was doing. I told my wife, I told my family, I told my friends. So guess what? Now I had people who loved me checking in on me. Hey, how are you doing with that thing? Are you? So I had to give up my ego a little bit because I had to tell people that I was not very patient with my kids and I wanted to change, and I had made some mistakes. But then once I did that, they became my supporters.
Right.
So then the ball was going in the right direction. Then I had reminders on the wall. I had something in the calendar. I had some coaching. I had friends asking me, and it just created this lovely momentum.
Yeah.
I like that.
Matt, there's nothing better than sitting down and declaring to your family, hey, I know I've been having some challenges with yelling a lot lately, so I'm gonna go on this goal of not yelling and controlling my temper and everything else. And then, you know, the next day you're sitting there yelling. I'm yelling at the at one of the kids, and my wife's saying, good job on that not yelling goal.
Right.
But you know, I'm being a little facetious there, but no,
Right.
like Drew was saying, that whole idea of sharing your goals and putting yourself out there so that folks can hold you accountable to it, you know, definitely is nice.
Yep.
And even one step further of the actual checking in, this whole idea of being honest and giving the kids permission. Now your kids are obviously a little young, but your wife and your kids, the room and the latitude to actually get honest. Hey, how did you feel like I did with my parenting this week, with my yelling, with my you know, kind of staying focused and all those different things, and allowing them to speak to me and curbing my ego, so it's almost that whole kind of being reactive to now be proactive. All right, I messed up in a few places, you know, have I done it a little bit better now?
Yeah. Thank you, Curtis. You reminded me of something that I did. I went to my wife and I said, I need help with this.
Yeah.
I said, seriously, I'm not as good as this at you as you are, and I'm not as good as I thought that I would be. So I'm serious. I want to get better at this, and I want you to be like supportive and gentle with me. So although my wife in the past might have like rolled her eyes or made a comment or intervened in a way, once I was honest with her, once
Right.
I said, listen, this is no joke anymore. Like, I actually really want to get better at this. And so can you help me? Can you like be patient with me, but be supportive? And so like, I said, it's going to be a fine line because I want you to help hold me accountable, but I want you to do it in a positive way. Can you do that? And
Exactly.
and we discussed what that looked like. So having people on my team really helped. I had to be honest though, and I had to ask for help.
Right.
Yeah. So how does that feel, Matt?
Great. Yeah, no, I've shared some of this with my wife already. Actually, very recently we had a conversation about some of this. But yeah, I think opening it up to other family maybe, and yeah, I mean, I got some things to think about after.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are all great suggestions, and I think I need to come up with a good solid plan to put in place, but that gives me some starting ground to really get my mind
Great.
going where to start. So
And you know what, you know where this helps too, Matt. I'm not sure if will fit your life, but I had some family members or some in-laws telling me how to trying to tell me how to raise our kids, to how to raise my son, and they had their ideas about parenting,
Right.
and they were saying I should be more strict. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm trying to be calm and relaxed and positive and constructive, and they're telling me something different, and it was very confusing for me because they had their opinions that I wasn't doing a good job. And so I actually use this honesty as a way to like, in a polite way, to tell them to back off.
Right.
And so what it sounded like was something like this: I appreciate your input. I know you guys have done this before, and you did a great job. And so my challenge is, actually, you might not see this, is that I'm pretty reactive, and I can be aggressive, and I can be really judgmental. So I'm actually trying to do something different right now. I'm trying to control this. So, I would like your help doing that, if you don't mind. And so I just flipped the script on them, and I let them know my personal challenge. And that kind of like, people, they weren't advising me anymore because they knew behind closed door, my real challenge was actually that I didn't need to be more strict.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't
right.
need.
Yep.
yeah,
So that was a good way for me to deal with other people's opinions of me and how I should parent. I was like, hey, listen, I want to let you know the truth. I don't need help in this area. I'm actually kind of a hothead, and actually I can get out of control. So I don't need that.
yeah, that's good. No, I like that a lot.
Yep.
So where did we oh yeah, what was your takeaway from this chapter 1, Curtis?
Yeah, so a lot of the things that we touched on, I thought that was great. The big part for me, and actually I don't even know if you said the word in here, but what kept coming up for me was integrity, and the whole idea of wanting to be the same in public as I am as I am at home. And so that whole idea, like you said, that and Matt touched on this earlier, out in public, everybody sees the Facebook version, they see the Instagram version. And don't get me wrong, of course, we all have our times where we gotta, reprimand the kids in public and all that, but it definitely can be different than how it was at home. And so for me, this just took me right back to, the early days, or even now. I feel like I'm better. I'm still working on it, but the whole idea is of, like you said, there's definitely certain things, that I'm willing to not do in public, that I get those, allow myself to let loose a little bit more at home. And so this whole idea of maintaining that integrity.
I think getting honest is very related to integrity. I think that that's a great point. I think that if you're drastically different behind closed doors than you are out in public, then you got something to look at.
Right. Exactly.
And there's something there for you to be curious about. Like, well, why is that happening? Why am I so different? It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It doesn't generally speak to a life of integrity. That means that's an invitation to be curious.
No, exactly. And I think that's another part to what you were talking about too, Matt, and of course, this is still on the other side of situations going well or not going well, but the whole idea, and you already do this with the journaling, and maybe even adding a question in there, asking yourself at the end of the day, did I feel like I parented the way that I wanted to today? Did I live up to my own, standards, or the new standards that I'm trying to put in place? And so I say that to you, but these are the things that I'm trying to get better at, myself as well.
Yep, 100%. Is Robert able to talk?
Yeah, Rob, I know you were driving, so I don't know if you're at a place
Okay.
where you can.
That's all right. That's okay.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at one of these questions and from the workbook. We're not going to do all of them.
Hey, I'm sorry, I'm here.
Oh,
Okay.
there
Yeah,
he
and
is.
we know you were driving, so we want you to be safe.
No, I'm pulled over. I'm waiting for Miguel to come out. I do have a question about that. That was I was curious about that, where you're saying if you're one way outside and another way inside your home,
Uh-huh.
like what do you mean by that? Because I guess I have a different outlook on that. And I'm curious to know. It's not very descriptive of what you mean by that, or very detailed.
Yeah.
I can explain what I mean by that, and then Curtis could also explain what he means. So do you want to go first, Curtis?
Sure. So yeah, Rob, you're asking kind of what does that mean and what does that look like, and if your thoughts on that or what we're saying or what I was saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, I mean, and most people say this all the time. You know, they see me out in public and they're like, man, Curtis is always smiling. He's always got the big smile on his face. You know, he's making jokes. You know, he's the life of the party, always in a good mood. And, you know, Rob, obviously you've seen it. You've known me for years, so you know that that's what a lot of people will say. So then when they hear otherwise, or even maybe even experience it because they're in the home or somewhere and they see me kind of flipping the script to parent, and they hear me being a little bit more harsh, they see me, you know, yelling, they see that I've kind of lost my temper and my patience. You know, people have said, and my wife has even, you know, responded, Allison said, like, wow, you know, if people saw you here, they'd be like, wow, is this the same person? And so the challenge for me is like Drew was talking about, for me, it goes back to a integrity issue, because, you know, we all have these different things inside of us. But, you know, if I'm not willing to do that out in public where everybody can always see it, then why would I feel like it's okay for me to do it at home? And it's not. And so anytime those things happen, Lord, it's hitting me right now because it's something I'm still working on, and it bothers me so much that I allow myself to get upset and lose control in some of these different situations. And so for me, that's the problem. If it bothers me, if I, you know, then why would I be willing to let myself do that? And that's why I do things like this to get it under control, because if left unchecked, you know, who knows where it could go. So
Okay.
if that helps a little bit, I mean, if that makes it a little bit more clear.
I could say something too, is it's like parenting is really hard, and kids are difficult to deal with, but let's just be honest. So there's going to be times at home where, you know, emotions get high, and we're not like this we're not leading by example in the best of ways. It's going to happen. And so to allow for that and say, yeah, it's going to happen from time to time, and forgive ourselves when it happens, I think is one thing. But then, like, recognizing that it's not the ideal is important, rather than being like, you know what, some people just say, this is the way it is at home, this is what my kids get, they get this, and that's because I'm the parent. And I think, you know, there's a difference between recognizing something that's not ideal and then excusing a certain behavior. Right. It's okay, we're going to make mistakes, but let's not call it like amazing parenting. Right. Like let's not say our kids deserve like the way we talk down to them, or if we're aggressive to them. They don't really deserve it. It might happen from time to time, but let's not hold it up as the pinnacle of parenting. That's what I mean.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, Rob, the thing for me too is it wasn't quite here, but I know in other conversations, you know, Drew has equated it to, you know, if our family was our team, you know, if we were at work, would we talk to our team members? Would we work with our colleagues if we saw that, and Robert, you definitely know this, running your pizza places, running your Dunkin' Donuts, in the different places where you've had to lead teams and they're not performing the way that you want. Oh, this should have been so simple and so straightforward. I said to clean the grease trap. Like, what part of cleaning the grease trap don't you wouldn't necessarily approach it like that. And and I know maybe you have, but I also know, that we're a lot more likely to be patient and take the time to walk folks through. Oh, it seems like maybe I wasn't clear. Let me walk you through what this looks like to clean the grease trap so that it's prepared for the next batch, and stuff like that. Whereas at home, it's like, dude, I told you already, you should do it. And it seems like a lot of times we're a lot less patient. At least I know I am. So I like that consideration when you talk about, would we bring that same methodology to to work or working with colleagues or other adults.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, I get that point. It wasn't like, it was vague a little bit, so I wasn't sure. Because for me, it's about, you should, like, home is supposed to be a safe place, right? So you should be able to feel like yourself at home. Right. And outside of the home, you do have certain you have to take, for like, you can't be loud. Like my son who has ADHD, he's very loud and very obnoxious at sometimes, like to the point he's like screaming on the top of his lungs. Well, he can't really do that outside. He can, but that's gonna affect other people around you. And so I don't want him to be yelling at the top of his lungs in the middle of the restaurant. That's not socially, not that it's not even socially accepted, it's not polite. And, right. So there's a level of politeness or social awareness around you that you have to be. But at home, if you don't go outside in the backyard and yell on the top of your lungs, do it. Should be your safe place. And so for me, that's why I was kind of seeing what you guys meant about that, because, at home, it should be your safe place. You should be able to be different at home and be more secure and more open about who you are, right. And outside, I guess I'm speaking to, the small little things, like, being loud or being different as far as like, being very fidgety or having to like run around. You can't run around in a restaurant, right? You can danger someone. So those things like, but if you want to be inside the house and run around and have play, and that's what you need to do to be yourself, by all means, and so.
I like that. That's a great point, right? I love home being a place full of forgiveness and acceptance. I mean, really, how good would that feel, both for everybody involved? Parents, kids, husband, wife. Like, if home is a place that's full of forgiveness and love and acceptance, then it really is a safe place. And they say that kids often act up at home even more than out because right. It is a safe place, and that's a good thing. So I love that addition. And I think that it makes sense. And it even goes for parents too. Like we could model that. We could have a hard time at home and have an emotional outburst as a parent, and then we could apologize and hopefully the home forgives us and allows us a second chance. And if mom and dad both do that, we recognize the mistakes that we make, then the kids are seeing that. They're saying, oh, okay, we can be human. We can make mistakes. Mom and dad make mistakes and it's no big deal. And so we can really be our authentic selves here at home. So I love that addition. Thank you, Rob.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's great.
So this work is tough to do. And I anybody that's willing to look at themselves and to ask questions and to take the time and to realize that you don't get to create the life or the family that you want without being intentional about it. It just doesn't fall into your lap.
Right.
So this work is is challenging and is confronting, and it can be tough, and it takes a big man to do it. So I appreciate that you're here. And one of the questions is, let's just get really clear. What's a specific behavior of yours? Just name one that you could point to and say, no, you know what? Actually, not anymore, because I can tell that if I keep on doing this, I can tell where it's going. If I keep on doing this, and this is the status quo, this is the environment that I'll be creating, this is the relationship that I'll be creating, and if I follow this down the line, I know it's not going to a healthy place. I'm pretty sure there's a better way to do this. So let's just get honest for a second about that. What is one behavior of yours, a specific behavior that you've engaged in, that, truth be told, it would be better to stop it?
It sounds like Miguel made it to the car.
Mm,
Rob, I muted you for the minute, so you can pop back on in a little bit. But, Matt, you got one?
Yeah, for me, it's empty threats. It's been top of mind for me recently, and I've been telling my wife how I hate when I do it, and I've been finding myself doing it more and more and more, and I just need to cut it out.
right.
There's others, but that's probably the big one that's been top of mind recently that has been getting bad. It's just those empty threats that, hey, you don't do this, you're not getting dinner, whatever it is. I don't necessarily have a good example right now off the top of my head, but
Right.
I did a lot, and yeah.
If you keep up with your yelling, you're not going to get any dessert.
Yep.
If you don't clean your mess, we're not going to go to the park.
Right.
Yep.
And those are basically empty threats. You don't really follow through on them.
Correct.
Okay. So good. Thank you for being honest. This is not an exercise in shaming anybody. We're just being honest right now, so in a safe place where other people can say, thank you for being honest. That's a big thing. So when we get clear about the specific behavior, I believe there's something, and we get support with it. I believe there's something that can transform, it can shift, and we can learn to do something different. So thank you for that. What, if I can ask, Matt, where does this go if this behavior, like, if you keep on with this behavior, why do you think it's something that you want to remedy, or is an issue that you'd like to resolve?
I think that when my kids get old enough, if it happens enough, they're going to know that, well, dad says something, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to do it, or they don't necessarily hold what I tell them with as much weight and truth as I would like them to hold what I tell them.
And that's an important thing.
That's, as a parent, you need to have that. Your kids need to trust you. Your kids need to, when they hear you say something, you need to be all in, and they need to understand and see that in a parent. And I think by doing empty threats now, you're setting yourself up to struggle with that in the future.
Yeah. And then they could also learn that behavior themselves too. If we're talking about modeling, they could end up saying, well, daddy, if you don't do this, I'm not going to do this. And so you could end up having like, I wrote something about this one time about how kids learn really quickly, and they end up doing the thing back to the parent, but even better.
Yep.
And smarter. So yeah, there are downsides to it. It sounds like there's a big why. There's a big reason for you to change that. And so, yeah, and we're going to continue with things in this book that are going to help you with communication, and other things that will help you not use empty threats. Okay, thank you for that share, Curtis.
Yeah.
What about you? If you're honest, what's the one behavior that you're thinking, no, not helpful, not anymore?
Yeah, I got to change this. Hey, and real quick, Matt, I'll tell you, there was one time where everybody assumed it was an empty threat that we actually followed through. There was the one time where we had given, I don't remember which kid it was, the whole thing of, hey, if you don't straighten up, we're not doing your birthday party. You're going to lose your birthday party. And there was one time that we actually did. My wife and I both agreed and said, yeah, you know what? We're pulling the plug. Yeah, we're not doing the birthday party. We're canceling, these plans and letting everybody know. Don't worry about it. So it was one time. But all the times before that, and maybe even after, were the empty threats because we were like, no, we had already invested too much to cancel this birthday party.
Right.
But either way, the whole idea and the goal is it shouldn't have got to that point in the first place, and that's why we're here. So, but for me, that is one of the pieces of it is because of all the things that I allow. Oh, hold on, everybody. Let me mute Rob for a second. Because of all the stuff that we have going on, because we are busy and allow ourselves to be busy and our schedule, or my schedule to be so busy, I don't. One of the behaviors that I need to change is how I do manage my time and how I pre-plan different things, because the challenge is, especially when it comes to the kids, it then leads to me rushing them. Trying to get them to rush out the door, trying to get them to rush and do like today. We were, cleaning up the house as the house cleaners were coming in, the pre-clean before the housekeepers come in. And so because of my lack of planning and proper, planning, I'm having to rush, which then means I'm having to rush them. So of course, things are naturally not going to get done as effectively as they could have. And it's just a compounding cycle. So something a behavior I need to curb is the or something I need to get better at is the planning, especially when it comes to interacting with the kids. So I'm not rushing them.
Yes.
Almost setting them up for failure.
Okay, so if I'm to summarize what the one behavior is that you've realized it's not good for you or the family, the kids, is rushing them.
Yeah. Rushing them because of poor planning on my behalf. But yeah,
right.
Rushing them in general.
Yeah, let's say you poorly planned beforehand. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to rush them, right?
Correct.
So it's the act of rushing them that's it's causing friction. It's causing high emotions, disconnection. What else is it causing?
Unnecessary anxiety.
Yep.
Yeah, because everybody's emotions get high, and like so many books have said, that's not the best way to go out the door for school. That's not the best way to go to like yesterday going to the swim meet. Hey, everybody, do your best.
Right.
After we were yelling the whole way to get into the car and even in the car, all right, go out here and do your best. Make the family proud.
Right.
So yeah, it like Matt said, it's not gonna bode well for the future.
Okay, so your goal is to curb that, is to learn alternative methods to rushing your kids.
Right.
Okay. Yep. Because why? What's the long-term reasoning behind this?
Well, yeah, because if I don't, then the challenge is they model that bad behavior, and then next thing they know, they're rushing themselves or their family all the time, that they're not, kind of properly planning. They're not entering into this new event in the proper mindset, and so on and so forth. So it can lead to, these poor cycles of them handling their emotions well.
Right. So you're making the connection between this and kind of like anxiety, which you don't want to be handing your kids a bunch of anxiety.
Well, right, exactly. Right.
That's not the state in which our kids can perform optimally in life. Anxiety, generally not productive, is it?
No, not at all.
Okay, good.
Yep.
That's a good reason. That's a good reason to do that. Is Rob still on the call or is he gone?
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Okay, what is it for you, Rob? The one behavior that you're like, no, that's got to stop.
Nothing. No, I'm stop. I mean, from what I understand from my family members, the biggest thing is being, I guess, stern or being very quote abrasive,
Okay.
and the way I talk or handle a situation. I come off very harsh, I guess.
Okay.
And that, I guess, that deters them from talking to me
Okay.
or willing to listen.
Okay. Thank you for that honesty. And I want to just revisit this question to see if the answer is going to change at all.
Mhm.
So Matt spoke from his experience about what he wanted. Curtis did that same thing about what he wanted in his own life. And so when I asked you, you told me from the perspective of your family what they wanted for you. Now I want to check just to see if that's the same thing that you want.
Um, I mean, I guess it just leads back to being listened to and being heard. And now, I guess, so what I want is for them, and it goes back to previously about being able to be myself inside my house,
Mhm.
right? When I get passionate about something or I get serious about something, I get high toned, high pitched, or like
Right.
very sturdy. I get very, just grounded, and I get really, I come through very,
Yep.
Right.
strong and forceful in what I want, and I'm very passionate about it. I'm very, like, passionate person about certain things. And so they take that as being abrasive and harsh. So I guess what I want is just to
Right.
be able to be myself and be accepted, and not, not have to, you know, be someone else to,
You have to temper that.
So
Yeah.
do you want to yourself do you want to yourself stop being so strong and forceful and harsh?
Um, do I want to? In a way, no, but in a way, yes. It's a yes and no, because I want them to be, I want them to listen and pay attention and, hear me.
Right.
Right.
But at the same time, that's who I am, and I don't want to have to stop being very passionate about things when I'm passionate, or very stern, and have
Right.
this, this mindset of, this, I get excited or very, you know,
Right.
So this
you
is an
know,
exercise in personal ownership. This is an exercise in something that you think about that you want to change in your life, and there's some good reasons behind it. So that's my challenge to you, is for you to own this. If you don't want to change who you are, then don't say that one. But if you want to stop, like, being yelling or being forceful, then yes, say that. So that does that make sense? This is an exercise in
yeah,
personal ownership.
Mhm.
yeah, no, that makes sense. Um, I guess the one thing that I think, that I would like to stop doing, um, is, um, I guess, being set in my ways and drawing a line, and not having,
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
um, not being willing to move that boundary.
Okay. Right. Okay. So you want to stop being rigid.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you continue to be rigid and not flexible, what happens to you and your relationships and your family? What do you think if we follow that down the road, where does that end up?
Um, I, I, I wouldn't know.
Okay.
Because I would think and assume that it was, be my perspective on it would be, it'll keep them in check, keep them in line, let them learn boundaries, how to set boundaries when they get older, and know that when someone crosses that boundary line, it's not okay, and you can fight back against that. On
Okay,
the other hand,
yeah, so it's like there's two sides of it. What's the other
yeah,
hand?
the other side of it is that it's they're being closed-minded and not open to other possibilities.
Okay. All right. So what I heard from you guys is that there's certain things that you're doing that you'd like to stop because it's getting in the way of either your relationship with your kids or their development. And so on the other side of the thing that we're doing that we don't like is the thing that we really want and we really like. So for Matt, on the other side of empty threats is trust. The reason why he wants to cut out this empty threats is he wants to have a high degree of trust with his kids. High degree. He wants it to be a very trusting relationship where his kids can believe what he says and that he's a man of integrity and he's not going to be waffling all the time and telling untruths. That's important to him. So trust is really important to him. For Curtis, he doesn't want to be rushing his kids because he doesn't want to be giving them anxiety, really, because he wants them to perform at a high level. He wants to give them every opportunity to succeed. And so handing them and producing anxiety within them is not going to do that.
Right.
So that's really important to him. So you can see the thing that's on the other side of this thing is something that's really important to you. It's really, really important to you.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we can focus on when we're challenged by something, is to remind ourselves why we're doing this.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. And then I don't know what it is for Rob exactly, because he seems to be a little bit undecided on what he personally wants to change and the reasons behind it. But I would invite Rob to consider something that he has control of, something that he's doing that he thinks he could own and put a stop to because it's not helping. And that if he did something else similar to what Matt and Curtis are talking about, that he could create a situation, he could have a very positive influence. So for me, it was I didn't want to yell at my kids anymore. I was like, no, I got to draw the line in the sand. No more yelling. No, I got to stop it. And I thought to myself, well, what happens if I keep on yelling? Well, I'm going to create a house full of yellers. We're all going to start yelling at each other.
Yeah.
And I might impact my kids' self-esteem. I think that if I keep on yelling negatively at them, I'm going to impact their self-esteem. And I don't want those things. And so for me, I want the opposite. And so I said, well, what's the opposite of this? I want kids with a high level of self-esteem. And I want a relaxing home. That's what I really want. I really, really want those two things, probably more than anything. And so what I did was, for number 6, what's your plan for when you lose sight of this? I reminded myself of these reasons. So your kid's self-esteem is so important, man. Like this is the thing that matters in the world for me. And then peaceful home. Like there's nothing more I want than a peaceful home. So what I did was I admitted a hard truth, and then I found the reason why I wanted to change. And then I reminded myself of that reason again and again and again. I said, you're doing this for a bigger reason, man. You're doing this for something that's really important. And so that was one of the things that helped me get through this. It was difficult. Yes, it was difficult to stop yelling, but I had a bigger purpose. I had a big reason, and that helped me through some hard times.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last question I have for you guys is the bonus question that I added. So today you were honest, and it's tough to be honest. That's why I added number 7. Would you be willing to extend yourself some understanding, some grace and forgiveness for the behaviors that were not ideal? Like, yeah, So you have rushed your kids. Yes. So Matt, you have done some empty threats. Are they ideal? No, they're not. That's why we're talking about it. I have yelled at my kids. I still do sometimes. Not ideal. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Not ideal. But does it mean I'm a terrible person? No. I'm trying. I'm learning. I'm growing. If I knew how to do this already, then I'd be doing it perfectly.
Right.
If I already knew, it's like handing someone a basketball that's never played basketball and be like, hey, there you go. Go ahead and get on the court.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't actually really know how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So would you be willing to do the same thing for yourself? To understand yourself, to understand that you're learning and you're growing and you deserve some forgiveness and some grace.
I know for me, it's something I have to remind myself of pretty often. Because like I said, I can, my wife will ask and will say, you should extend to the kids the grace that you extend to yourself. And I'm like, look, you have no clue how hard I am on myself, which is why, I have these levels of expectation for them. But no, like you said, for me, with everything, that would be the constant reminder that I need to have, that I'm still growing and changing, and that I'm getting better in these areas. I'm focusing on it. And that it's okay. I'm taking the steps to do that and get better in those areas.
Yeah, exactly. And let's take it one step further, if we can, Curtis, for a minute. Like, the reason why you're doing what you're doing, there's a reason behind it. Every behavior that we exhibit, there's a reason behind it that makes sense.
You're right.
So for you, I could guess that maybe there was this thought that if I rushed my kids, then I'm showing them the importance of being on time. So maybe that was the reason. Maybe there was the reason, like, well, I was rushed when I was a kid, and so that's what I learned, and so that's what I'm doing with my kids. There's always a reason behind
Right.
what we're doing. So if you understand yourself, you see that, there was a reason behind this. It wasn't all that crazy. I'm not evil. Like, there was a
Right.
perfectly understandable reason why I did this.
Exactly. It taught me how to perform under pressure to be able to get things done in the last minute.
Yeah. And then for Matt, maybe it's like, well, maybe he learned that. Maybe someone in his life was a person that threw around threats, and he picked up on that at some point. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
I don't know that's the case, but I need to think on that one a little bit more.
Where it comes from.
Yeah. Or maybe it's a tool that you thought, oh, this could be effective. Let's see if this is effective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired. I would like this to happen quickly. I want it to happen now. So I've got some power. I've got some leverage here. Let's see if I can make it happen.
Yeah.
It could just be that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think more of that.
Yeah. And for me, it was, well, you grew up in a home that had yelling, so that's what you knew.
Right.
And you didn't really understand the impact of your behaviors on your kids before, but now you've had this insight that, like, really the way you interact with your kids determines in a large part their self-esteem, what they think about themselves. And now that you've had that insight, it makes a lot more sense. I wasn't connecting the dots beforehand.
Right.
And so, because of where I came from, I didn't really understand. I was frustrated. I was overwhelmed. I was emotionally dysregulated. That's why I was yelling.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave myself some love and understanding.
Yeah. That's important too, like you said. So.
And last question to Rob. Would you also be willing to, if you're not doing something perfectly, or ideally, would you be willing to give yourself some forgiveness and understanding as you learn to do better. If he can answer. Well, looks like maybe he's busy, but also I just looked at the time and it's
Hey, sorry. I'm trying to get myself off mute. My phone's messed up. Yeah, I mean, I think I would. I mean, I think I do it a lot already, just because of the situation I'm in, and with all the kids. I don't know if you want a response or not, but I think it's just one of those things that I think I have to do it for myself, and it's the only thing that I'm allowed to lift myself up and keep going. Because if I don't, I just get drugged down, and I have this self notion that no one else is gonna do it, and so I have to just make sure that I know what I'm doing. It's part of God's will, and go from there.
Yeah.
Thank you. And we can do it for each other too. If
That's
like
right.
Matt gets down on himself, we can say, hey, Matt, you're learning, you're growing. We can give Matt empathy if he comes to a call and he's feeling down on himself. We'll do the same thing with Curtis.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it for each other too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, most definitely, Rob. Yep. We're here for you. I'm always around, man. But no, you're doing a good job. We're all trying to do our best.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I found some SpongeBob.
That's the truth.
I found a SpongeBob.
I want some SpongeBob too. But
All
yeah,
right.
Drew, to your point, yeah, since it's 3:30, I know we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. So here, I'll mute you real quick, Rob. There we go. Oops. So we'll pick it up next week with chapter 2.
Chapter 2.
Yeah, and so chapter 2 is
Lead by example. This is a fun one. Lead by example is a fun one.
I love that.
All right. Thank you guys. Thanks for being vulnerable, sharing, and being willing to learn and grow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Hey Matt, you're definitely doing something right. Look how he woke up with a smile on his face. He was like, look, I'm ready to go. He was all smiling.
I think he just likes looking at a screen.
He's a cutie.
Oh man. All right, fellas. Y'all have a good time. Have a good day.
All right.
Thanks,
Happy
guys.
Father's Day in advance. Too.
Yes.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you. See you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.